Thanks a lot. So welcome. The reason why I chose to present this topic is because SOC is like the theme that is most being discussed on. You know, it's like a hot potato, and basically a lot of talk has been around there for whether we should be implementing a SOC, how we should be doing it, why should we implement a SOC, and so on. So I'm going to start with the presentation. Just a bit about myself. So I'm an independent researcher. I'm more into like blue teaming and DFIR. I've been in the IT business for about 10 years. Out of those 10 years, 4 have been in the security field. So that's enough about me. So the agenda for today, as mentioned, we'll take a look at what is a SOC, why do we need it, and then like the longer part of the presentation is going to be how do we implement it, or basically how do we start to implement a SOC. So what is a SOC? SOC is there to basically defend information systems of an organization. So not only to defend, but also to monitor and assess these information systems. And it is actually it actually comprises of people, technology, and process. So we'll have a look at each one of those in the how-to section. So we'll take a look at the specifics of people, technology, and process one by one. You can see here a picture from this is the National Security Operations Center from 1975. So it doesn't look that much different today, to be honest. So why do we need a SOC? Well, basically every organization has something that they need to protect, whether it be like intellectual property or confidential data like salaries or contracts or personal data, which is tied to GDPR. So basically, you have something to protect. And here we can see a couple of examples of companies that have been breached before, like Sony, which lost 100 terabytes of data. Yahoo, which lost 1 billion users, and the latest one, which is HBO, they lost 1.5 terabytes of data, including the latest episodes of Game of Thrones. So they had obviously something to protect. They didn't, succeed that much in it. So how do we start to implement a SOC? As mentioned before, a SOC is a collection of people, technology, and process. So we'll take a look at each one of those, and I'll give you some pointers on what to look for when you're looking for people, when you're looking for technology, when you're implementing technology, and process as well. So people, basically there's, depending on your organization size, you will probably have more roles in a large organization. You will have less roles in a small organization. But basically, all of those roles in a SOC need to have the right mindset. So the resources need to have the right mindset, the right background, and the right skill set. When we're looking at the mindset, what it means is that they need to be, the people need to be passionate about their job. They need to be curious, so that they are digging deeper and deeper, searching for stuff that they want to find. They want to, they need like a thirst for knowledge. They need to have attention for detail, thinking outside the box, and basically think like the adversary so that they can find it. When you're looking at the background, obviously they need to have like networking skills and the way that networks and systems operate. And when we're looking at the skill set, then we're looking like specific stuff, operating systems, so Windows, Linux, and so on. We're looking at different protocols that they need to know about, cryptography or network and security as well, so how network and security devices operate, and basically scripting as well, which is like something that needs to be in there as well. There's a very good book out there that I would probably recommend, I would recommend that you read it actually. It's called 10 Strategies of a World-Class Cybersecurity Operations Center. And there are 2 quotes in that book which I admire. So the first one is that if you have the right tools and just one good analyst, you will actually be more successful than having like 100 mediocre ones. And the other one is that you should always be looking for quality instead of quantity. Okay? So where do you start? You know, if you don't have a SOC, if you don't have people in your SOC, you most likely would need to form a team of people. So what kind of people do you need there? You need experts. If you have existing ones, that will be perfect. So people that have the right, skills, the right mindset, the right background. And if you don't have, experts in-house, you can hire consultants to do that for you. And the reason you would have experts is because you could use them to train your other staff in the SOC, which is like the biggest benefit of it. You can use the experts to fine-tune the tools that you use within the SOC, so like your SIEM, all the other like solutions like collection of events and things like that. And the most important one is that they know how the process works, like the incident response process, so you want to have them define that as well for you, and procedures too. So besides the existing experts or consultants, if you don't have existing experts, hire internal, get internal staff on board, because you probably have in your organization people that understand your environment really, really well, and they might not have like the right skill set, so they probably have some of the skill sets, but they can gradually, adapt new skills. If they have the right mindset, that will be, that'll be perfect. If you don't have any internal guys, then you would obviously go and hire somebody. But do have experts on board from the beginning, because that will, help you implement your SOC much faster, or if you already have a SOC, it will probably be much, much faster to get it to a mature level. So in terms of technology, we all know that there's a lot of tools out there that SOCs use. We'll see that on the other slide, but basically it's not a problem of, like lack of tools. It's an issue where, people cannot or don't know how to effectively use those tools. So we all know that the central part of every SOC is a SIEM, where you have like all the events coming in and use it for correlation and context and real-time analysis and historical analysis and so on. So there are actually two types of SIEMs that I know of. One that you use for compliance. So basically, you just say, okay, the auditors told me that I need to get all these logs in there. I need to capture all these events. So you just shove it in there, and then when you need to do like any analysis, it's very difficult to do it. You have to wait for a long, long time to get your searches, to get some results out of your searches. Probably go for a coffee or for lunch or something like that. And then when you come back, it probably crashes. So, most of it is like for compliance. The one that we're looking for, so that a SOC should eventually have, is a tactical SIEM. So one that you can basically, come there and just search, and it will be very quick. You will get your results faster. You will be able to do your analysis properly, and catch the bad guys. So looking into technology, there are some issues that come to mind, like what should I be gathering? Should I be gathering everything, like what I've mentioned before, as you do for compliance? So or should I be gathering some, just a bit, some parts of it? So basically, there are three strategies that we have there. The first one is the input-driven. So that's like the hoarder approach, where you say, okay, just give me everything in it. Whatever you have, just shove it all in there. And basically you get the picture on the left of that, overstuffed fridge. So, you have a SIEM which is full of these logs, which is very slow, which is, you cannot use it for analytical purposes. The other model is the output-driven model, where you know that you need to have like, you want to alert on something. You know what you need to get it to that alert, so you know your input. So you say, okay, I'm going to be very picky about it. I'm going to be tactical about it, and I'm going to say, okay, I need only those events from your network devices, or from your endpoints, or from servers, or whatever. In that case, you have the picture on the right, so which is a nicely a nice fridge with everything packed properly, and you can find things very, very quickly. And there's also what we call a hybrid model. So basically, going from one to the other. So you start off with the hoarder approach where you say, okay, I'm going to shove everything in there, and then you filter out, I don't need that, I don't need that. So you filter it out, and you gradually go toward the output-driven model. So these are all the logs that we have, all the devices, all the different solutions that we need to get logs from, and these are the 3 ways that we should be doing it. There's a big question about, should we be collecting desktop logs? And my answer is yes, we should, because most of the attacks happen on clients. So whether an attack happens from, like an infection happens from a USB or from phishing emails or from ransomware, things like that. Basically, yes, you should be collecting desktop logs, but I'm not saying that you should be collecting all of them. That's why there are 2 strategies. So either collect all of them, you're probably gonna, knock your SIM to the ground, or you can collect like targeted events, so targeted things that you need, and then it'll be much more costly to not collect the events than to collect them. So basically, if we log everything we see on the left side, that we basically, have more desktop logs than server logs, and that's normal because you have more desktops than servers. So that's nothing new. But if we do a targeted approach, like a technical approach, be nimble about it and just select specific events from desktops, then we have the targeted. We have the picture on the right where we have more events coming in from servers than from desktops. Now, why would that be important? So if we collect desktop logs, we can detect things like, your pen testers coming in and connecting to, using interpreter to connect to a, to a remote machine. Basically, what happens is that a service is created, okay, and immediately after that it's deleted. So if you're collecting like service events, and you see a service event being generated, being created on a machine, on an endpoint, that should be an alert in your SIM. So you would go and investigate that. There are other methods that you can use here as well. So you could look at the service name and see that it's a fully random name. So you can use like frequency analysis to detect this as well and be, like 99.99% sure that it is some sort of an attack. It's some sort of an anomaly which needs to be investigated. Same thing with the privilege escalation. So again, a service is created, a random name. It's something that you don't have in your environment, something that you don't know. So basically, you should be alerting on that. And that's what desktop logs give you. The other part that we have is PowerShell logs. Again, it is part of desktop logs, but PowerShell v5 came out with a lot of logging features. And you can see here some statistics where basically Carbon Black research report states that 38% of incidents involve PowerShell. So we see a lot of PowerShell being used out there. If you only turned on like command line logging for PowerShell, you would be able to catch bad stuff. Because what do the adversaries do? Basically, they don't want to be, poking around and, placing files on your system. They want to stay in memory, stealthy and so on. So they have these long PowerShell command lines that they execute. And if you have command line logging, what you could do is you could just, alert and check if a command line has more than, 100 or 200 or 500 characters. And if that happens, that's probably something that your, system admin or whatever didn't, type in manually. So it has to be, investigated. There are other types of logging there, like module logging or script log logging, transcription logging, which is like the most verbose logging that you can get for PowerShell, where basically you monitor, the input and the output as well, and you wouldn't be sending that off to a SIM. So you can send things like that. So the transcription logging to like a share, if you need it for forensic purposes, you have it there. But you wouldn't be sending that off to a SIM. The other part that adversaries like to do is they can actually run PowerShell without PowerShell.exe. So they can actually load 3 DLL files and execute a PowerShell command. And you wouldn't be getting that with the command line logging or module logging or whatever. So for that, you need a third-party tool, which is open source, which is called Sysmon, and you would be looking for like DLL load events. I forgot to mention, but we're still on the page. So a lot of the PowerShell commands tend to be base64 encoded. So you could actually, check if there's like base64 encoding in the PowerShell command and alert on that as well. Just for an example, we have like if you invoke Mimikatz, which is a tool used to steal credentials, if you have module logging turned on, you will create a lot of events, around 8,500 events. So you don't want to have that in your SIM because if it's Mimikatz, you want to have like, I don't know, one event or less than 8,500 events. With script block logging, you cut that down to about 500 events. Now, you don't run Mimikatz every single day on every single machine, so you wouldn't be generating 500 events. But like a normal PowerShell script, which is being executed, it would just generate one event. So we're cutting down on the amount of events that we're collecting, and we're proving that desktop logging is possible. But you have to be tactical about it. What about DNS logs? So this is something that it's another very big question whether you should be collecting it or not. So if you go down to your system admin and you ask him, okay, can you turn on DNS logging, DNS debug on the DNS server, you'll probably be punched in the face because you will kill the server. So there are other solutions that you can use there. One of the solutions is from Security Onion, so you can use Security Onion, specifically Bro, to sniff the network and then extract the DNS logs. And why would you do that? So basically, you would do that because you would be able to catch things like domains that keep changing IPs often and often. If you have a list of domains that your organization is visiting on a daily basis, and you see you observe a new domain which is not in your white list, you can alert on that as well, because people tend to be visiting all the sites, that they visit every day. So new domains should not be showing up that often. Again, you would not have so many alerts. Baby domains, that's something that, why would somebody be accessing a domain which is like 2 days old? So that's something unusual, and you can alert on that as well. You could detect exfiltration of data through DNS tunneling, specifically through text records. And the last one is, there's more, but the last one on the list is like the unauthorized devices. So you can detect unauthorized devices on the network. It is a poor man's neck, so it's not like 100%, you will detect all unauthorized devices, but the way to do that is every machine has like an NTP server. So when you install like Windows or the NTP server is set to time.windows.com. So if you see anybody go out to time.windows.com, that's probably an unauthorized device, because in your organization, you probably have an NTP server, which is local. So every single endpoint should be going to your local NTP server. If you do just two things, so if you monitor for new domains that you haven't seen in your organization yet, and if you monitor the direct IP, so naked IPs, meaning that they don't have a domain associated with them, you can alert on almost 100% of internet-based network attacks. Okay. In terms of process, so in order for your SOC to be successful, you need to have a really well-defined incident response process. So your people need to know what happens when an alert comes into your SOC. Does the level 1 analyst look at the alert and try to analyze it and investigate it a bit more? Does he pass it on to like level 2, or just straight away to like the incident handlers? Does it contain a machine if it's if it's infected or something like that? You need to know that, you need to define that process, because when an incident happens, you need to know exactly what everybody is doing to be successful. To do that, you need to perform fire drills. So do like mock infections, test your SOC with pen testers coming in. If you have a red team in there, cool. If you don't, hire some consultants to do that for you, and keep testing your SOC. Make sure they are up to the game. There are two models for incident response process. So you can use the DOA, which is the most commonly used one. So that's the one that's showing up here on in the green circle, which consists of 6 stages. Or you can use the NIST Computer Security Incident Handling Guide. Among the incident response process, you should have in your SOC. It's not limited to, but most SOCs should have like a monitoring procedure, notification procedure. So who you need to notify if something happens. Maybe some sort of a template as well for notification. Incident logging, which is important, so you can do reports on how long did it take for an incident to be closed. Then you have, of course, report development, so reporting on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis for the management and so on. So what I want you to take home today in terms of people, basically look for quality, not only quantity. So quality is the one, look for experts. They will help mature your SOC. They will help you get your SOC up and running if you don't have it already. And make sure you use them to train your people. So training is important for your SOC people. In terms of technology, think about tactical versus compliance SIMs. So compliance SIMs tend to be more commercial. Tactical SIMs seem to be more open source because there are open source SIMs out there. Think about desktop logs, logging desktop logs, especially PowerShell, and DNS logs. So you should be tactical about it. I'm not saying you should be logging everything, but think about it because there's a wealth of information that you can get out of it. As for the process I already mentioned, so define your incident response process properly and make sure that it is tested on a regular basis so that everybody knows what they're doing, because if they don't, you will fail. And just a last quote, that we all know that there are 2 types of organizations out there, those that were breached and those that will be breached. But by being prepared when it happens, that's what makes the difference. So that's it. Thanks a lot. I could probably take questions now. Probably have.
If you have a question for the
Yes, sir.
speaker, could you please use this microphone here?
Yeah, up front here.
Hi, great presentation. Thank you very much. All those tools like Carbon Black and they cost money. Is there any alternative to commercial tools and to speed up the process and not to invest too much into the security operations center?
Yeah. So there are commercial tools out there, like I mentioned already, and most of them are, most SOCs use it for compliance. But if you want to do like a technical SOC, yes, I'm not saying you should not be using commercial tools. Yes, there are open source tools out there as well. So you can use, like the ELK stack is one of them. It's being used by many organizations out there. It does require customization, but you can use, open source tools. OSEC is one of them as well, for like if you need hits on your endpoints. So to be honest, all the commercial tools actually started, using open source tools, and then it built up to a commercial tool. So there's always something out there.
And you as a company can provide it?
Yes, yeah, we can talk about sales, yes, outside there.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Do you have more questions, maybe? Unfortunately, that's the problem. Thanks.
Hello, sorry I missed the start, but I want to ask what kind of tool do you use to analyze those logs?
Sorry, what kind of tool?
Do you use to analyze this kind of logs? you take such a amount of logs?
So if I heard you correctly, what kind of tool do I use to analyze all these logs?
Yeah, sorry, I missed a start of the presentation.
Ah, okay. So basically, the central part of every SOC is a SIM, whether it be commercial SIM, which is used for log collection and correlation purposes.
Okay,
So this is where you do most of your analysis.
Do we have any more
Any other questions?
If not, let's thank the speaker.
Okay, thanks.